Hi, everybody. It is Wednesday, and it is the Eating at a Meeting live cast podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, and on this show, we talk with experts in all facets of food and beverage so that we can be educated on food and beverage because it is our number one expenditure within meetings and events, and it's sometimes the thing that we spend the least amount of time on. I'm excited today to have a fellow Dom, La Dame Escoffier, on the show with me, Dee Patel. She is the first female managing director of the 110-year-old Hermitage Hotel. She has worked in the hospitality and events for nearly 2 decades. And today she joins us to share her insights as a trailblazer in the industry and how she successfully navigated the tumultuousness of 2020. That's a big word. Hi, Dee.
That's a big word. Hey, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to your space and to your audience.
Oh, I'm so glad that you can join me. For everybody, I heard Dee speak at a La Dame Escoffier Sunday brunch, probably, 5 months ago?
Yeah, 5 months ago.
Yeah, just talking about different women. We're talking about what's going on in their world, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to you because you were talking about service, and the Hermitage Hotel is a luxury property, the only five-star hotel in the state of Tennessee, right?
That's right.
So tell us how you got there. Give us your story.
Well, at a very early age, I just had a love and passion for the industry. And upon graduation, I started working for the company. I moved to Virginia and worked for a sister property at the time, 5-star, again, luxury hotel, and was invited to be part of the reopening of the Hermitage Hotel. We went through an extensive renovation in 2002, and so we had a team from each property come to Nashville to help be part of the opening team and to build processes and so on. And I traveled back and forth a few times, and the general manager at the time said, Dee, what is it going to take for you to move to Nashville? And that was a big question, and one I needed to further understand and analyze and think about. And so I do best pros and cons, lines, sheet of paper. And I came back to him and I said, okay, just hear me out for a moment. I would be honored to move to Nashville and be part of this beautiful, iconic, historic hotel. And would you consider allowing me to oversee your housekeeping department? And he just said, I'm sorry, what? I was thinking you would oversee the guest services department. And I just said that housekeeping is such an important part and a backbone to a hotel, yep, and one that is incredibly important to really understand and learn. That was really part of my goals in my career of being able to continue growing. So that was my first start, and I've navigated several positions, several leadership positions, to assistant general manager, and to now managing director, and just incredibly proud of my time here.
That's amazing. And I mean, the fact that you asked to oversee the housekeeping is really shows a lot of forethought, because those men and women are in those rooms every single day cleaning up after us, and it's a hard job. And
it's a very hard job.
Inspiring them to continue to do that job is amazing.
Well, there's also difficulty in leading a department like that for lots of different reasons. And I believe that it's such an important part of continuing your growth as a leader is to be able to be challenged to overcome adversity and challenges with creative problem solving to really, again, just helps you as a leader as you continue to grow. So that's my story and how I moved to Nashville.
That's awesome. Just on a side tangent, it reminds me of a property I went to in Las Vegas years ago. And they're like, well, your room's not really ready yet, but you can go into it. Here's your keys. And I dropped my stuff off, and the person's stuff before me, they hadn't cleaned it yet. And it was so gross. And the housekeeper was like, can you please go complain? Because this does not show our work.
Right.
You know, they want to turn that room around to show off their expertise.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm like, I can only imagine, because this was in Las Vegas. I said, I can only imagine what you find in some of these rooms.
You know, interesting things that you find, things that you, yes, hear, smell, and find, and all sorts of things.
Yes. Okay, so that big word, tumultuous, whatever, a crazy year for 2020. How has the hotel been impacted by this? You haven't closed down, right?
We didn't. We didn't close down. And, I would say any crisis brings you, yes, the challenges that go with it. And we've certainly seen the largest impact, and that was your guest disappeared overnight. And so navigating that was certainly a challenge. It continues to be a challenge. But a crisis also brings you opportunity. And those opportunities also bring you clarity. And so when you think of your organization and you think of all the different facets of it, the opportunities will give you the ability to be creative, to reimagine, to reorganize, to restructure, to think differently about your organization. It drives efficiency. It allows for innovative ideas to come to play. And it also gives you this collaborative space to really take the time to involve your team and think through being flexible. And that's a big part of what we've learned this year is the ability of being flexible and what that, and the impact to your guest is so greatly appreciated because they understand what's happening. And it's not regional, it's not specific to a specific, city or an area. So I think that the guests have been very understanding, and we've been able to embrace sort of being very nimble, being very humble. So I think from my perspective, focusing on the opportunity because we know what reality is, and looking to the future and looking to how we continue to adapt to our present challenge, I think is the most important place to place the emphasis on.
So what kind of inventive and new things have come about from you being flexible and your staff? And I thought one of the things that you said in that other interview was that your team really embraced this as well. And you gave them the opportunity to say, okay, how can we think outside the box within our property to make this experience better?
No, absolutely. So we started off we were really right there close to Easter when things really just stopped. Mm-hmm. And being a luxury, iconic, but historic hotel that dates back to 1910, there is tradition and heritage and history. And we have these 4 brunches throughout the year, Easter being our very first, where our lobby is transformed and we are serving anywhere between 600 to 800 guests on that day. And so we knew that wasn't possible. So we very quickly navigated to creating a lot of to-go kits and meals and just different offerings that would help and foster some creativity even at home. Mm-hmm. We created cookie decorating kits, for example. We created planting kits where the kids could learn about what they were planting and what was being seeded, and watching a marigold grow or planting an heirloom tomato seed. and really learning a little bit about it. So there was this educational factor, knowing the kids were all at home. There were all sorts of family meal kits that we put together. We created Easter to Go. Easter to Go was a cold, rainy day in Nashville.
Okay.
And we had our Easter bunny dress up and was outside and was greeting and waving to all guests. And it just brought this smile during the most scary, difficult time because there's no playbook for how to navigate the pandemic, particularly in April. We were still all very shocked. And but we served over 400 meals into the community.
Wow.
Easter. And we, at one point, a WeGo bus driver stopped and serenaded the Easter bunny with singing My Girl. And the video went viral. And that's our way of giving back into the community, that there are small things that we can do that bring a smile to someone's, to someone during a tough time. And that has led us to afternoon tea, utilizing spaces that would pre-COVID be completely booked with meetings and receptions and parties. Converted these spaces into sort of a tea space, a tea room. We put afternoon tea to go. Thanksgiving to go was a phenomenal success. Christmas Nutcracker tea has since sold out. And again, we're very limited in what we can have in terms of capacity for, safety and health regulations to protect our team, to protect our guests. And so having limited seats does make it difficult to be able to accommodate more guests.
Right. Yeah. The sellout happens a lot faster.
The sellout does happen faster. Outside of the food and beverage sort of to-go cocktails and ideas that were created, we also forged partnerships and did things that were thoughtful. And we started creating meals for our first responders.
Okay.
And that led to a partnership with Second Harvest, where Second Harvest has the ability to get into communities and schools and neighborhoods that we don't have a reach to. And so that partnership has allowed us to bring over 20,000 meals into the community this year, which has been, again, just heartwarming and just a way for us to give back in a small way, knowing that we have a full kitchen, we have staff members, and this allowed them to work and to be able to have a meal at home. And so those were some of the creative things we did. There's several other things, but
that's awesome. And I think I was talking to somebody just before we got on here, is that one thing that COVID has really shined a light on is food and beverage and our food system in general. And, everything that World Central Kitchen and Second Harvest are doing, and all of the food banks are doing to get food on people's tables, because we don't have the means to put some of people don't have the means to purchase them.
Right.
And it is really shown that a meal really does matter, and whatever we can do to do that is really important. So thank you for that. Now, one of the other relationships that you have is with your restaurant and the Land Trust for Tennessee.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about what you do with that? Because that's bringing local food right into your restaurant.
Absolutely. It's one of the most proudest partnerships that we have, and I have the great honor to continue that partnership. The partnership with the Land Trust for Tennessee was formed about 11 years ago. It was as we were celebrating the hotel's 100th anniversary, we wanted to create meaningful, authentic, and genuine partnerships that really brought to life really what the Hermitage Hotel truly stands for in Nashville. And so the Land Trust for Tennessee are stewards of our land, and they work incredibly hard to support and protect green spaces, farms, parks, historical homes, through conservation easements,
Okay.
to protect green spaces for the state of Tennessee, which is such an important part of our city. Agriculture is such an important part. Landscapes of Nashville are just beautiful. So their work in conjunction with what our goals were moving into sort of the new decade was, we forged a partnership that was really twofold. One was through a guest giving program that we started, where we involved and invited our guest to also partner with us. So the guest also had the opportunity to donate $2 per night per stay, and that would go back to the land trust 100%. We had other initiatives in place that would do very similar things, and that guest giving program has raised now to date $1 million in our 11-year period. And so the Land Trust for Tennessee uses those dollars to protect and preserve green spaces. And I think the last I heard was that those dollars have protected over 900 acres of green space in our state, as well as protecting and preserving Glen Levin Farm, which is a 600-acre farm 15 minutes from the hotel.
Okay.
And so part of that partnership is that we have a 3-acre heirloom garden where we grow our own vegetables from start to harvest, and those vegetables are harvested and brought back to the hotel and served to our guests in our restaurant, in our banquet spaces, and when there's extra, it's to our staff. We've donated it to community partners when there's an excess amount of something that we can't all use up.
Right.
So, yeah, it sort of brings farm to table to our table it has a different meaning because our staff are involved.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the garden. They're really understanding the food, the process, and there's just something so beautiful about just the bounty of nature, and seeing something that you've seeded to the point of harvesting. There's just a special connection to that, and you know that you've been part of that.
That's awesome. Now, do you actually have a farmer on staff, or does the culinary team do that as well?
So we started off with the culinary team when we started the program, and quickly realized that we really did need someone on staff to be more dedicated to that space, and also kind of work through some of the techniques of sustainability in farming. We've been able to do that, and so we do have a farmer that's out there, but the support comes from our team, and that's part of our team building exercise. It's part of our way of giving back to the community, and our charity is our land. And so we spend a lot of our time and hours dedicated to that space. Have you seen a lot of change in your staff, in their knowledge and their proudness, which absolutely in presenting the food? Yeah, absolutely. It's a farm. It's not a small herb garden or a patch, and even that's just really important to have. But to really understand the proper techniques and the what and the how and so on behind it, one has been fascinating to our team, particularly our culinary team. They just can't wait to get out there and get their hands dirty, and it also gives you a little breath of fresh air, no pun intended, because it takes you out of your space where you're in a hot kitchen. Yep. And it puts you in a different environment, and that environment is inspiring. Now, so I don't know if you saw the post. I posted the thing this morning on Instagram just about you and I talking, and then I posted, hey, before I talk to Dee, I'm going to make some fresh vegetable stock. And I used the leftovers from like the beet greens and the radish greens and kale stems and everything to make this stock.
So are you doing, is your culinary team doing the same things with
Absolutely.
food and beverage?
Absolutely. We've incorporated many things that we harvest into our cocktails.
Okay.
So really, the idea is, how do we use every element of our food and of our ingredient, and that certainly translates to your various proteins and how you can, from stock to so on, to even your vegetables and how they can be used in different ways to, so that there isn't any wastage. And if there's an excess of something, whether it's, cucumbers or tomatoes or so on, you are able to pickle them. And so we have lots of things that we've pickled this year, and then that gets sort of adopted onto our charcuterie boards, or they are integrated into a dish in some way. So you always feel like there's a piece of a lot of components of your dish that really came from our very own garden. And if it's not from our garden, it's from local farmers and purveyors. Such an important part of our community outreach is to support all elements of our community.
That's fantastic. All right, we're going to jump to the different part of the crazy year that we have.
Yeah.
Our industry has been rocked hard in so many ways. And as a female leader in the industry, what advice do you have, or what do you see going forward for 2021, lasting impacts that the pandemic is going to have on us, but also how can we pivot or find new aspirations within our industry or without?
Sure. And I think this year has really helped us stop and revisit and re-navigate. For me, it's been really embracing our reality. And there's not a lot we can do with our reality other than navigate through it. So how have we navigated through this adversity? And I've been so proud to see my team really demonstrate their strength, their ability to be flexible, their empathy, their willingness to want to step up to the plate, to think differently, to do more, to be part of more. Because again, I think we all recognize our challenges and our struggles. And while we can't fix that overnight, what we can do is find all the opportunities that lie beneath that. And for a luxury iconic property like the Hermitage, service is part of who we are. Graciousness is universal. Luxury service and what makes up luxury service, we're still expected to deliver at a very high level. And so it's been so important for me to really ensure that we are not transactional in our service because of something we can't control. And we have to look beyond what we can't control and think through, well, what elements of service can we still provide? How can we communicate empathy and care? How can we modify our offerings to maybe eliminate some of our touch points, but add other elements that are thoughtful? And part of that is just how you express yourself, because, and this, and sales is a transfer of emotion, and people feel that that's heartfelt. And so, I hope that, for 2021, we move into a space where we can be and see more continued flexibility. I hope to see more humility from all things that we've learned, to make us all, appreciate and value and see the opportunity, see the difficulties that we have overcome, and embrace the opportunities that we've been presented with. So technology, for example, I know we've all talked about technology being part of it. If you were to have asked me pre-COVID to turn on the keyless, contactless check-in app device on the phone, because we've had it, I would have said no. We can offer that selectively to a group that's checking in, that that's a feature that would assist this group arrival, or our key repeat guests who have stayed with us 100 times or more and just bypass because it's home to them. However, a guest who is experiencing our hotel for the first, second, third time, that human connection cannot be replaced with a piece of technology. So fast forward to March and April, we switched that on as a way of, again, shifting our service elements and shifting what we can offer to what our guest needs are. So yes, we turned on technology. Sanitization, cleanliness, health, and safety has always been a large foundation for our company. It's not a new thing to learn how to clean or to use disinfectant. We didn't partner with a disinfectant company because we already had that in use. What we did is we shifted gears to find new advances, new equipment that would help us be more efficient in the frequency of our cleaning. So we can gauge when the elevator is moving. And so when that movement occurs, we're able to wipe down the switch plates, for example. We're able to increase the frequency. We're able to pre-package things in a different way. We're able to revisit some of our plating and offerings that might be shared and how to split them up so that they're more thoughtfully served to our guest. So I feel like I've gone lots of different ways with that question. But I hope that we take all the good that this year has allowed us to see and adopt some of those changes into the future.
Yeah, I think it is it's definitely been challenging, but I think because, like you said, the creativity and the flexibility, it has opened up new doors potentially, and ideas on ways that we can do things because maybe we got complacent. This is the way we always do things. And like that piece of technology that you turned on, it's not that you were being complacent, but it is now a necessary
correct
thing that you have to do. And how can you enhance that with the personalization but also using the technology? Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And you have local community partners, and we created private tours, private Segway tours that allowed our guests to feel that they were in a very safe environment by having that one-on-one experience with whether it's Cheekwood Botanical Gardens or the home of Andrew Jackson and the tour of that space. I mean, all these different partners we have in our community, we're all going through the very same thing our hospitality industry has been going through. And so we were able to create special VIP tours through those partnerships that allowed our guests to still feel that they could experience Nashville without feeling unsafe.
That's pretty cool, because typically you go to the concierge desk and they're like, okay, well, you can go here, or you can go here. And granted, you are a luxury property and probably took that service level, but this has expanded it even more.
Correct.
That's fantastic. A story I saw the other day was that some hotels are using their rooms to do VIP dinner services from restaurants and things like that. And I mean, that's another way.
Absolutely.
Be creative. Yeah.
The rooms are being used as office spaces. And so many of our professionals are working from home. You know, I've had I've come to the hotel every day since March and have been able to juggle the schedule accordingly. I do have 2 small kids at home, so that's been different to kind of navigate homeschooling, versus, I can't work remote. What we do in our industry is really serving our guest, and it is that touch point piece that makes us all click. But so yes, I've been coming in every day, but there are so many others that want a different change of scenery, and so we've had professionals use our guest spaces, public spaces, our guest rooms, as another place of remote office space, which has been very creative.
Yeah, actually, I want to go use our convention center just to get out of the house, and go call Tarsha. Something you said just triggered something, but it went right out of my brain. Never mind. So some of the food you said a few minutes ago, you were doing some individual packaging. Can you share a couple of really fun ones that you did differently?
Absolutely. Well, again, I go back to sort of being in a luxury space. If you are a patron in our bar, for example, you have 3 choices of bar snacks that we start your service off with, and a welcome cocktail, and so all of those. That's just a small component. Perhaps that's not as unique, but we were able to sort of separate all the different offerings, where if you have ordered a shared appetizer, for example, it is thoughtfully, individually plated so that you're not pulling from, one to the other.
Right.
For afternoon tea, for example, which is on a 3-tier, every guest has their own tongue, for example. Or if you are serving in the comfort of someone's guest room, we have asked permission to enter. We've asked permission to set the table. While still offering that, it's asking the question and understanding the level of comfort that the guest has, but then offering a QR code as part of it that has Nashville music playing to help them enjoy their dining experience in the comfort of their room, while maybe watching a virtual or taking a virtual tour of the Tennessee State Museum, or listening to a curated Spotify list that we've created that gives you a sense of Nashville.
That is one thing that I think really you help stand out really well, is definitely being completely committed to your heritage of being there 110 years and committed to Nashville and the community in general. And that question just popped back into my head. So your 110-year history, you had a big moment this year with that. And then you also did a celebration for women's suffrage. Can you share a little bit about the two of those combined?
Absolutely. Gosh, we started the year with lofty goals, lofty plans, with such great momentum. And so let me tell you just a little bit about the history of the suffrage movement. 100 years ago in 1920, August 18th, was the date that the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving equal voting rights. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to August 18th of 2020 would have marked 100 years since women had and fought for their right to vote. To think that it's only been 100 years sounds crazy to me, but it's only been 100 years. Tennessee was a 36th state that was needed to ratify that 19th Amendment. Nashville was the city in which the movement finalized, and the Hermitage Hotel was the epicenter of the movement.
Wow.
Both the pro and the anti-suffragist headquartered inside our hotel for 6 long weeks, duking it out. And the amendment was ratified by one vote. A young 24-year-old state representative got a letter from his mother that day urging him to vote suffrage because he had been on the opposite end. And at the very end, it was a tie, and he flipped his vote and voted for suffrage, and that was the tiebreaker. And that all happened in Nashville, and it happened at this hotel. And so when you walk into this hotel, you know that you're at a very special place. The lobby, the spaces are all original. And so we had massive plans to program our hotel around the centennial anniversary. And so we imagined programming. It was my my hope and our goal that we were still going to find a way to celebrate this momentous centennial year that we won't have again for another 100 years.
Right.
And to find a way to still bring that in the forefront. And we did. We did it through being very careful, knowing what the guidelines were, knowing what we could and couldn't do. And so while it wasn't as big, we did it in such a way that it felt bigger than had we done the big celebration. But for the month of August, we put together an afternoon suffrage tea. The culinary offerings were all recipes from the 1920s cookbook. So they were authentic to the recipes of the time where women were sharing their recipes. These cookbooks were used as part of the campaign messaging, subliminal messaging, why women should have the right to vote. We crafted cocktails, and we took each suffrage leader and created adjectives that described the suffrage leader.
Okay.
And then we crafted a cocktail based upon the adjectives. And so it was fun because it's a fun way to integrate history with food and beverage in a very playful, fun way that sort of creates a conversation, because you can order through an adjective. Mine is the Carrie. Carrie Chapman Catt was the leader of the suffrage movement, and she's described as bold and robust. And so her cocktail is this using Buffalo Trace Kentucky bourbon, craft her cocktail. And so you can pick a cocktail by the personality, the ingredients, or if there's a leader that resonates. So we did a lot of creative things such as that. We worked with a lot of our local partners and incorporated them into our celebration, and garnered a lot of attention. We received, I will brag for just a moment, we did receive the prestigious honor and distinction of National Historic Landmark Hotel. And to be a landmark hotel takes a great deal of time, and you're not easily selected because there are so many requirements. But something significant had to have happened at your place that impacted our nation's history. That's the suffrage movement did. And so now we are amongst the Apollo 19 Center, the birthplace of Martin Luther King, our state capitol, these Mount Vernon. That's the collection, prestigious collection we now are amongst.
Oh, that's such kudos.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a lot of work. And I was watching a couple of the things, via social media of what you were doing around in the month of August. And it's remarkable. And it's a great way to showcase the women in a different way. And I love the way that you use the adjectives, because it's not just saying, oh, she did this, right? It's
correct,
because she was this type of person, or this is what she portrayed. Yeah,
absolutely. Putting the community into it. We partnered with a live painting artist who sat outside, and we unveiled our plaque and we adorned the streets with yellow rose petals. There must have been, I don't know, thousands of rose petals in front of our hotel. Yellow signifies the suffrage color, and if you were against the vote, you wore red. And so we didn't have red; we had lots of yellow everywhere. But we had a young lady who live painted the ceremony outside and captured that moment. And at the end of the ceremony, she said, "I was in tears throughout the entire time, because that was a moment, and I captured this iconic sense in our history 100 years later, because we'll forever keep the curated art piece."
Right.
But she now has become our resident artist and has been painting in our lobby, and it supports her business, and it gives us a creative avenue to just have her take over the lobby and paint in it all day. And it's great for our guests, and they can enjoy a cocktail or a glass of wine while enjoying and watching her paint.
And I love, my niece would love that, and the fact that it's bringing the arts back, because a lot of funding goes away from the arts, but that's bringing a whole nother level of art back into, our communities. And if, your guests are bringing in their kids, they can see that this is what she's doing and this is how she contributed. And I think that's very fun and different.
It is fun and different.
Yeah.
Jack Daniel's distillery is just, an hour or so away from here. And they've been long-term partners. We buy a barrel that we select every year. It's a single barrel select. And this year we selected with 3 or 4 other business key women in the industry, not in the industry, but in the city, who were also celebrating the women's right to vote, helped pick out our yellow rose barrel. And it was such a great experience. We closed down the bar, and we were all, at least 10 feet apart from each other. And Lynn Tolley, who is a great grandniece of Jack Daniel's, is a dear friend of ours, and she helped us pick our barrel to commemorate the 100th anniversary.
Wow.
And that whiskey will get incorporated into our dishes we serve. We have this great sandwich that has Jack Daniel's weaved into the dish. We've created cocktails with it. So again, it just tells a story, and it's authentic and it's genuine.
That's something that you can 100% pass on for generations.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. So we're at 40 minutes, and just before we got on the show, we were talking about holiday meals, and you said your mom is coming. So, and you're going to eat up all of her food. So on that note, what is your favorite food and beverage? And is it one of your mom's dishes, or is it just something else?
Gosh, I love to travel. I love to explore. I'm originally from England, so I grew up in a very diverse environment. I've been in the southern states for the last 2 decades. And so we eat everything. I love it. Now, I will say that I love my mom's Indian cooking. There's nothing that beats your mom's cooking. But, between Indian and Thai or Szechuan cooking, there's just so many. I love flavors, and I love the different spices, and your palate taking that journey of the different flavor profiles is something that I enjoy. But it's interesting. Christmas can be really funny for us. So my husband's also from England, and so we will do either a hen. We'll either do Cornish hen, or we'll do roast chicken. But then we'll add some Indian spices and flavors to it, like kind of kicks it up a little notch. So we'll have a lot of the traditional English sides, along with what American, traditions are, and then we'll incorporate the Indian spices into that. So that's what we will be enjoying on Christmas Day.
That sounds like a very good delicious blended meal.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. When can I'll just drive over here from North Carolina.
Sounds good to us.
Well, tell everybody how they can find out more about how they can make a reservation to stay at the hotel, and or find out more about what you're doing in your history.
Well, please visit us on our website. It's www.thehermitagehotel.com. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We have so many great things in the pipeline that we can't wait to share it with everyone.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And a shout out to our Ladames. Congratulations on becoming the Nashville chapter president. So you've got a big year ahead of you for that.
Yes. And we're looking forward to it. We've got some great things in the pipeline.
Well, good. Well, congratulations. And thank you so much for joining us here on Eating at a Meeting. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tracy, as your guest. Take care. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. And thanks everybody for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms. and right here on the Thrive Meetings Facebook page and YouTube channel. So until next time, happy holidays.